Meeting to order. First order of business, approval of the minutes. Here a motion.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second, all in favor? Okay, first, on the agenda is office building repurposing study.
Okay, come on up this afternoon. I don't know what we're going to think about. Steve Johnson and Adam sending her up here all by herself. I think she can manage though.
And she may be better in that than him.
Okay. All right. They again have been working on several things since our last discussion, and she's got some handouts there. So you might give them an overview after of what they sort of got the sense last go round. You can move that out of your way there. Are you going to be using that?
I might just flip through if
Okay.
I can keep
All right.
track of my papers and the screen, but I'll try.
You both.
In their judgment, they had felt that maybe we were down to two primary scenarios, 5 and 7. So that's really all she's going to give you much information about, I think, tonight. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so you can lead her on wherever you want to go and ask whatever questions that she doesn't answer.
Are these a handout?
With that, yes, I can, I'm going to pass these around the table. And then,
The handout only includes 5 and 7.
that's correct. And then I do have the PowerPoint that includes some additional information.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So we received great feedback and comments last meeting, and so we did take, as the mayor stated, we took those comments and we refined, we focused on 2 scenarios to try to eliminate out some of the others that weren't gaining as much ground. So those are 5 and 7, and what we heard comments and concerns last meeting were departmental placement, so some of the blocking plans we've revised, parking and traffic around 319 North Maple was also a concern. Also the possibility, Mr. Cush had asked and Mr. McAdoo about further expansion possibilities at 319 North Maple, so not just on one scenario, but we've also looked at that for 7 as well. And really the key differences in those 2 scenarios, 5 and 7, would be the presence or control of the county on the square, or the lack thereof. So 5 being one to sell off the buildings on the square and expand 319 North Maple, and 7 more so being to keep the Judicial Center and the Goldstein building on the square, and then not having that expansion, but I'll get into the detail, but we have looked at a second phase option for 7 that would consider that 319 North Maple expansion.
And that phase option would be out further than the 5-year period.
That's correct.
It would be something that would give you an opportunity for another bite at the apple, maybe 8 or 10 years down the road. It'd leave another place for that to occur later. But she'll go into that.
That's right. And that would be unique to that scenario, whereas the study, we really did only consider, and with the departmental programming, we only considered 5 years out. But we are starting to take a look at what's beyond that as well. So I've printed 5 just to reference and compare it to 5A. So you could, really all we've done on 5 is I've added one comment that came up, and I think it was you, Mayor Burgess, about the possibility for the clerk's satellite office space. So we've added a cost in there to consider that, since I think traffic and parking at 319 currently are already a concern. So also when we blocked out the clerk's space, we were finding that it was difficult to get any growth capacity, and as the clerk has stated, she's at capacity currently. So to be able to consider a satellite space, that's going to be consistent among these scenarios. Also, so jumping to 5A, if you would, with me. So that's a difference in that table, is to add that clerk satellite space. We also checked on the probation department going into the historic health department, confirmed, kind of did a quick test fit to ensure that their current needs and functions work in this building, and we believe that could be possible. We talked to Mr. King, with the additional security officer on the second floor would need to be a consideration for that. Since they're currently on one floor, we have one security officer, but with 2 floors, that would be a possible need. And also to address, I think we're showing in most of the scenarios, we were showing, the historic health department doesn't have growth capacity for probation, but we'd like to add that you could consider in the future more remote, possibly pretrial or electronic functions for them as well, to address that concern for growth. Another difference in 5A now, we are looking at 319 North Maple. If you look at it's on page 49, but that site plan, this is really in a way to address the parking concerns. So we were showing additional parking on top of the Judicial Center garage that is currently being finished right now. But we realized that as the county grows and that Judicial Center growth happens, that we need to consider an additional parking garage. So we're showing that site plan with, if you see to the left on the plan, the expansion of 319 North Maple, and then to the north, a garage that's pretty similar in size to the Judicial Center one. So we're estimating for that about 100 spaces per level, and that would be 2 levels needed for zoning. So this, again, the cost did not change from that. It's just basically shifting around some of the departments. So 5A cost did not change much, except for incorporating a possible cost for the clerk satellite office space.
And please take note that, and I'm sure Ms. Brewer is looking at that even right now, there's no drive-through on that 5A. It all has to be done remotely at satellite locations. That is, unless we build on top of the current garage. This doesn't put any addition on top of the current garage. You'd have to flip that garage labeled by 6 there on top of the current garage. And you've used up all future expandable options.
Yes, so this is 5 at a high level, is consolidating or getting the best adjacencies among county departments. However, it is almost using up, as the mayor stated, that growth capacity that would be possible. There's a consideration, I think, for additional, we've shown 3 levels on 319 North Maple. I'm not really sure that should go up more than 3. But we did, when we did the site diagram, looking at that, considered we could do 4. But still, this one's more at capacity.
So you're saying that the 3-story building could be 4 for future growth?
It's possible, I think so. And we looked at that, really, I think that would be the most. But then there becomes a point when you're doing about 15,000 square foot floor plate that it's not as ideal to go up any higher. Okay. So we'll go ahead and, I know that there will probably be questions, but I just want to touch on, just to compare the two. The 7, which we had previously, so going back to, this is renovate the Judicial Center and the Goldstein buildings, selling the annex. We've also added here that purchase or lease out for the county clerk satellite office. And that is, I think, essentially updated blocking plans to speak to some other departmental comments we received. Getting election commission on one floor, which would be level 1. IT brought down closer to the loading, which would be on the first level at the back of that building. But then, I did update 7 that way, but then we are introducing 7A as a refinement to scenario 7. And this introduces that idea that, 7 could be considered for the short term, and then a second phase at 319 North Maple having an expansion possibility, possibly that 10-year out kind of forecast. So in this chart on page 58, as you can see, the costs are there for renovating, code updates, and tenant improvements for most of the buildings. And then we pulled out for phase 2, 319 North Maple, expand at 30,000 usable square feet, which would be a 2-level addition. This is, if you look at the subtotal, kind of after 7B, you can see we've met the usable square footage needs. We're still at a good price, a good cost. That includes that 11 million, includes contingency. But it's beyond that. Is there any more growth capacity? So that's why we looked into this phase 2. And so we've got about 3.5 million for that 2-level expansion at 319, with contingencies would be about 4.5, with contingencies and soft costs, excuse me. And then that's going to give you 30,000 square feet in the future.
Mayor, are you still interested in keeping a few Kenny buildings around the square? It seemed like that was your opening remarks in our last meeting.
Well, I'm still concerned about our ability to sell these buildings. Even though these prices they put in here, I think, are reasonably low, I still have some concern about that, yes. And I do have concern about whether whoever buys them will be financially successful and maintain the integrity of these buildings and the square. So, either one of these will work. I think there's, I don't know, I didn't know, you're sort of asking me for my recommendation. I was trying to go leave that to you guys to come up with, but I still sort of in favor of keeping a couple of these buildings that we currently have and maintaining, and our responsibility to do what we can to for the future of Murfreesboro downtown.
Well, the report back on the Goldstein building is not that bad. If you had a chance to read it, that's what I asked for last meeting. And based on it, it's probably worth keeping it just by looking at this, because it looked like it would take minimum amount of dollars going into that building. And keeping Goldstein building also will give us the parking on this side of the square to use this other parking garage that we already have. So it looks pretty good. Report you brought back on it.
What I got a problem with is the scenarios that they've shown here. On the Goldstein building, you're looking at, on scenario number 7, you're looking at $1,780,000 for cost improvement. And the value of the building, it shows if it was sold, it'd be $100,000. So $670,000, putting old money, good money into an old building, you know, I've got a problem with that. Because if we're gonna be stewards, good stewards of the county money and everything, we've got to bite the bullet somewhere. And I have a problem with, with that kind of figures, Mayor.
I mean, that's a discussion we need to have.
Wonder how much money we have sunk into that Goldstein building in the last 20 years.
Well, I don't know, since we've been here, we hadn't put anything in it in 11 years, so I don't know what you did before that.
We did a lot.
We haven't spent, I know a lot was done to the outside to sort of dress that up and stabilize that years ago, but,
Mezzanine, we did a lot to mezzanine and all that.
I mean, whatever we did was not noticeable because it's not even up to date in any respect, any part of that building. So I don't know how much you may have spent.
One more observation that I have is on the Judicial Center, on scenario 7, $2,871,000 for cost improvements, to code update, and tenant improvement, and selling price would be $2,844,000. Of course, that's only $27,000, but, you know, still $27,000 times 10 is $270,000. 10 projects at $27,000. You follow me there, man?
I do. 5A is 12,500,000 total. And you've used up all your parking and potential expansion. Scenario 7 is 11, so you can look at all the numbers, but the total numbers is less on 7 than on 5, or 5A.
Total amount.
Total amount, when you consider all these things together. And when you factor in the sale and you factor in the code update and the tenant improvements as well. So all that's been taken into consideration for a total number. So you're going to spend, if their numbers are correct, then their numbers are far from precise because those are just their best estimates right now on the tenant improvements. We would be in control of that as far as how much we do and how far you go. So they're close to one another, and I'd say within the margin of error, the cost of either one of those scenarios is about equal.
That's funny that you say that because the overall cost for scenario 5 is $12,584,700, and scenario 7 is $11,312,700. The other scenarios, same thing, come to $1,272,000 difference.
That's what I'm saying. That
The old scenario was $11,609,700 versus $10,337,700. So it comes out the same, $1,272,000.
and all I was saying is, in the scheme of their accuracy, they could be off 10 or 15%
Right.
on any
Either
numbers
way.
either way. So I'm saying it's all about the same dollar-wise.
The situation is with scenario 5, they're looking at 2.5 years of our financial burden, so to speak, if you want to call it a burden, but our financial obligation, let's use it that way, versus 1.5 years, the scenarios. So
You're talking about the time to do
the time
to do the
yeah.
work.
2.5 years versus 1.5 years.
2.5 years on scenario 5, is that what you're saying?
Correct. And 1.5 on 7. And
I mean, the timing to get all of it done is less.
Correct.
Is less on 7.
correct. And naturally, we wouldn't be financing this $12 million all in the first year. It'd just be like the judicial building. It'd be in increments, you know. So, and the beauty part about this is purchasing of the 2 buildings and the tenant refresh. That's the beauty part about it to me, for being able to purchase this on University Street, you know. And another beauty part about scenario number 5 is the fact that these departments would all be centralized a little bit more due to the fact that they wouldn't have to be running from South Carolina to Alabama to get something done over here and then have to go.
Well, both of these scenarios, in fact, all of the last four, have us purchasing the building on North University. So that's common.
Right. It's broken down a little bit more. Here on scenario 5, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 different offices versus centralization of the offices here. That's what I'm looking at too. And
That's some of that's good and some of that's not so good. When you put all those people over there in the same area, it's going to be a major traffic jam and parking and intensity there.
You'll be able to utilize the 2 more levels on the parking garage for the public and everyone else involved. You know, that'd be adding the 2 levels to the parking garage, right?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
Or, yeah, adding a parking garage additional.
Yeah, five adds it on top of the current, and then this 5A adds it over there in the parking area of the 319 North Maple
On the site.
on the site.
Isn't that university building next to the college purchase?
Sir?
The medical office building?
Right.
Yes.
It's right next to the college.
Oh, yes.
It's over there nearby.
Right, what they're doing.
Yeah, it's common to all of this discussion. I mean, I think it's,
And the building on North University has enough space for these courts, the recovery courts?
recovery courts, yes, sir.
We're all
And
sure
then
of
even
that.
some growth probably.
And the reason why we wouldn't want to use a building like the annex, since it has more square footage, is because we don't want the recovery courts right there on the square.
True, yeah.
Well, would it be feasible to put them by the college?
The recovery courts that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the old hospital neighborhood there, is it? Where that's
But I
located.
think isn't that it's next to that business.
It's well, I was gonna say it's a little bit away from the university.
No, it's not.
But the current-
reason purchase is not.
Well, the university has purchased the green space you see
Right.
out there now, yes.
But it's still, I guess that'd still be a block or two.
That's just really one block away from that green space
Okay, you're
where the
right.
building was torn down.
Well, no concern I got. Figures sound good that we can sell these buildings for this. You know, when you get come around to selling these buildings, where's my market? Who's gonna be in the market to purchase these buildings? You know, I can say right now, this building is worth $3 million, I'm gonna sell it for $3 million. Then I get around 6 to 8 months down the road, it may be a different story. That's number one. Number two, I hate to get rid of buildings and look 6 to 8 months down the road and say, Doc, I wish I had kept that because I need the space. So, you know,
Well, I don't know how many square feet are in the bank building that the city of Murfreesboro bought, but it's probably in the neighborhood of what's in this judicial building or there, but I don't know. They paid $1.5 million. We got 2.8 here is what we've got projected to get for this judicial building. So I don't know if our building doesn't have anything except the building, there's no extra land. The bank building that the city has bought does have some parking, et cetera there. It has some additional land for growth and for parking. So I don't know with 2.8, it doesn't sound like a lot of money when you look at the square footage. But I mean, I'm just telling you, that's a sort of a comparable. And that annex for $555,000, that's a reach too. So these numbers in 5 for the sale of those buildings, the Goldstein building at $1.1 million might be the one that's more likely to bring its price. Well, I don't know if, you don't have to make a decision right now. You can discuss this and maybe some things that we need to talk about and you need more information on. I think we've gotten all the information out of Grisham and Smith that they bargained for, but I'm sure that they're willing to work with us a little bit more.
Yeah, we do owe final report, and that would include more detailed phasing plan for whichever scenario you would choose, and we could consider looking at if we still need to finalize and wrap it up with 2 options. That's a possibility. But yeah, that would be good.
So it's safe to say that we're gonna narrow it down to just these 2 options, 5 and 7?
It doesn't appear to be any reason. This is really the 2 that sort of stands out, it appears. And the primary decision is going to be, what's the value of those properties that if we choose to sell them under scenario 5, and is there a reasonable chance that the probability is there that we're going to get something in that neighborhood? Because we're going to be at risk for that happening.
And I think that in so many years, a future commission, a future mayor will be looking at the same thing we're looking at tonight. And 7 gives them something to look at downtown, where I think 5 doesn't give them really anything to look at. And that's kind of what's on my mind right now, so.
What do you think is the most prudent thing? Which one are you looking at that you could support?
Well, I like number 5 originally, and I still do. But looking at 7A with the future growth, I mean, I want to look hard at that. Because we all know in 10 or 20 years, there'll be another committee here looking at the same thing. We're already out of space.
How far out did we look on the new judicial building?
It's over 30 years.
Over 30
I believe 30 to 50 possibly.
Yeah,
but
I think
it's hard to-
with that 4th floor, I think it's
Yeah.
maybe 35 plus.
And it's hard to estimate, but that's what Justice Planning was brought in to do.
One good selling point on both the Goldstein Building and the Judicial Center is they're corner buildings, and each one of them would have adequate access to parking. The one near the Goldstein Building, when the police department moves, they're going to have adequate parking over there in that facility, and there'll be some extra parking with 2 additional levels to the parking garage over there for this judicial building. So that would be a selling point for anybody that would be, interested in buying these buildings. And of course, like I said, you don't know what the real estate market's going to be. It's kind of like asking the question, how high is up? It's just going to proceed, So we don't know what the future's going to hold. I'm not Commissioner Gooch. I feel like that we need to move forward in some direction, because construction costs are going to continue to rise, just like we were faced with an $11 million additional cost to Rockville School at $59 million, and 4.5 months later it popped up to $11 million more. That's $2,500,000 a month addition. So when you're playing with big numbers, it's scary. But I feel comfortable with scenario 5 and maybe incorporating the planning scenario 5A. Can you glance at that just a minute, Mayor? See, and first, can you glance at that?
Well, I think you're saying that if we choose kind of 2 options, then what would your company do? Look at.
We just need to refine, there's not much more to part of this, but we would refine, I think, looking at, how would you really phase this out in a project, and look at that, to line that up, and then just basically issue an executive summary of whether it be one or two scenarios. It's just, that's the extent of this study.
And I see that it's coming down to 5A and 7.
And really, we can't sell these, if you go with 5A, we can't sell these buildings until we built the new building. We can't even put them on the market. It's too far out for anybody to say they want to buy them until we're ready to give them a notice that, they'll be going to be available in some reasonable time. You can't even put these out there. It'd be nice if we could get somebody to give us a price that we knew we had in hand, and then we'd know how much we were going to get before we have to make the commitment to build the new structure, which is where all the money is in that particular one.
Well, I'm still.
$6 million for a new building. And we hadn't sold the other 3 yet. Hadn't even put them on the market.
Right, that's-
Where's money coming from?
Yeah.
that could be a little high risk, but I'm also interested in seeing what Murfreesboro do with this old bank building.
They're meeting on that tonight, so we'll see if
Yeah, I
they're
wanna see
making
it.
progress.
I'm curious to see what they do. Could be something we could watch, and that could be something to do in your study if they come up with a plan here on that bank building. And if we see a lot of people interested in retail or whatever in that bank building, I'm curious to see that before I even think about anything else. But it looked like Plan 5 and Plan 7 is the way we're looking, and some more things like this, what Murfreesboro do with the bank building, and when the police department move out, which they be moving out here recently, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, within a year, I'd say, or less than a year, when you think about it.
I think it's maybe less than a year, I'm not
Less
sure.
than a year when they move out and see what happened over there. So, we got time on it, but
Like I said, I just have a problem with throwing good money after bad on the Goldstein building when you're talking about the renovation costs and everything versus possibly what you get out of it. That's my stand, and I want to stand by it.
That's okay, I understand that. I don't think it's throwing good money after bad, though. I mean, because we haven't got any money in hand yet for the sale of our building.
that's what I'm
Nothing.
saying. So,
Not any. And we could do 7 and not do anything of any substantial nature to this Goldstein building. That $1.5 million could be $500,000 and probably be enough initially. So I don't think we even have to spend all that to get some handicap accessibility and
Yeah, I was just-
this whole list of things here that's been listed as code requirements.
did you read this
Because
list?
we're using it right now, the only thing that's changed is we have this new judicial building with additional square footage, but that doesn't necessarily compromise the existing building.
No, not at all. I mean, this list is way less than I thought it might turn out to be as far as the requirements we have to put in place.
It surprised me coming from Murfreesboro that it was something like that.
To add on to that, I would just say for a phasing option possibly, I think, one of our goals of this study, or one of our guiding principles, is to bring everyone in their office space in the county offices up to that standard. So that's a possibility to, bring the building up to code. Maybe it's a second phase to do a renovation, but we would like to see a typical higher level office space for everyone in the county. So to try to bring the Goldstein up to an equivalent level, I think that would be a suggestion I have.
Any more questions?
Or do we need to give some kind of direction as far as a motion to kind of narrow it down to these two and then ask about executive summary?
I guess it might be nice for you to agree that this is the two we're going to continue to focus on until you decide which.
Well, I'll
complete
make that
direction.
motion.
Motion to focus on this,
Yes.
Plan 5 and Plan 7. I have a second to that motion.
Second.
I second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, Plan 5 and Plan 6.
Now, let me see what's Vicki put on you, before you go to the next agenda item, please, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, on your iPad, under Office Building Repurposing Study, if you don't mind, look at that, please. Those 6 pages there, that's this medical office building that's for sale on North University Street. So, and it is for sale, and I have there the page from the property assessor's office, and you can see the building that's located on the corner of Greenland Drive and North University. It's 13,000 square feet there. We can make some small improvements. It's almost in a condition where you could almost move in it without doing anything if you really wanted to, but it might be wise if we did some improvements, tenant improvements they call them, before we do that. Anyway, if we think we're going to land on one of these two, which you've made a motion to do that, and this is included in both of them, I'd like some authority, some permission just to start a discussion with these folks regarding purchasing that building.
At 525 University.
Is that the?
525
Yes, the
University.
525 North University.
I think both of these scenarios have $1 million for purchasing a new building.
That's that's their number they put in there. I don't know if we can buy it for that, but I don't know if you need to give me an authority number, but at least I could find out what it's going to take and report back to you. At least we could seriously start some discussion. So if you want to say $1 million or whatever is an authority number, that's okay too.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make that motion that we get the mayor to go ahead and open some dialogue with them and the avenues, whatever you need to take, up to $1 million.
Okay.
And see what their temperature is and see what their attitude is.
Okay.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Mayor, do you need a price on it?
I mean,
I hate to
that
say
sort of
it,
holds me accountable, and
Yeah.
as long as it's not too high,
Yeah.
I can always come back and ask for more.
Right.
Okay.
But in both scenarios, it says,
Yeah, because that's Christopher Smith's number.
Sure,
They come
sure,
up with that.
I think somehow we may have gotten that as a.
Maybe it's one of
Maybe from,
some of our internal people may have said it. Okay, but I think that's a reasonable number to start with.
well,
Is
$1
the
million
building vacant
versus
right now?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's still vacant.
Yes, sir.
$1 million or $1,325,000. That's not too far out of the ballpark.
Right.
You know, when you want to sell a building.
How
How long has it been vacant?
It's been vacant for a while.
If they moved all the offices out and the hospitals all left, it's made it less desirable for medical
A
offices.
couple of years.
You never know
It
until
looks
you
ready
ask.
to go.
Yeah, they keep it up.
What's this tenant refresh part after for? I think it's ready to go.
that was a precaution. Unforeseen.
You see, I've got
Well,
it.
I'm just looking at the back picture.
You see some interior pictures there.
Yeah.
And you can see it's in pretty good shape, really.
Wonder what
They've all got it.
Oh, they've got it.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Ready to go. Okay.
wonder what.
Okay, any more discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo.
Yes.
Okay, and Afton doesn't know exactly what her assignment is, but Afton, we will get together and discuss this and see how you're going to come forward with your phasing or final executive summary of some sort.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Can I-
Anything else for her while she's sitting here?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, Tennessee State Fair and Exposition Commission request for county interest.
Okay, so if you've had time to read that one-page letter there that's on your iPad, that letter was dated August the 10th, so this has been floating around a while, okay? And they've sent this letter out to all of the counties in Tennessee, well, Middle Tennessee, excuse me, not all the counties, Middle Tennessee in particular. And you hear all the news reports about what they're doing, what they're proposing to do with that current state fairgrounds down there in Nashville. And there's this Tennessee State Fair and Exposition Commission that's out trying to determine what they can do about locating another fairground/exposition center. Now, this group that's doing this study they don't have any money, they don't have any authority to make any decisions, but they're trying to get whatever counties might have some interest to give them some proposal. And they've got one or two that say they're interested in that. But you see, they really want something a little bit more than just a one-time, once-a-year state fair. They want some multi-purpose agricultural exposition capacity, whatever. We're talking about quite a lot of money here, folks. And they think they need maybe as much as 600 acres, and they think it maybe should be within some neighborhood of I-840, closer toward Davidson County. So you can see there's some suggested needs that they suppose they have that are going to be a bit hard to find. It's going to be really hard to find that much property in our county. I think the most we ought to do right now, if you want to keep this discussion sort of going with them and keep us in some sort of consideration, send them a very broad general letter that's saying Rutherford County does have some interest in continuing to engage in this discussion. That's about as, I can't get much further along with it than that. Now, Mr. Pettis Reed is heavily involved in agricultural things all these years, and I would defer to his better judgment if he wants us to say more than that, or any of you.
Is that when we'll have the Bill Goodwin Gun and Knife show?
What?
That's very possible.
I mean,
Just saying.
How much acres did you say they were looking for?
Well, you see here, they said it's
About
out there 600 acres. Sufficient contiguous acreage. Now, they may not want that much to start with, but it got it. Or potential for expansion.
I've got the ideal spot for them. How many acres you for?
I'm not going to get into that discussion.
That's not anything unethical. I'll just ask you a question. It's
I got almost that much, but
prime location near 840.
First thing I would ask.
this is a long-term solution. This is going to take state legislative action before they ever get any money appropriated
Yeah,
to buy
need some money
100 acres.
first. Yeah.
It's a 2 to 5 year decision-making process before they're available to buy anything, it appears.
What you want us to do, purchase the 600 acres?
That'd be a great
Not
draw.
your vote, not for mine.
You had a farm out there, hadn't you?
No, I've got a little plot over here
say 60 acres.
off of St. Andrews Drive.
Come on.
So you need a motion to that effect?
Well, I mean,
Just,
you can authorize me to send them a letter of general interest with no specifics and no commitment. I'm not willing to do any more than that unless you tell me that you're willing to do something a whole lot more than that.
That letter sounds fine. Just keep our foot in the door for just a little while.
yeah.
Okay. So let's make a little motion of some sort that you will want me to go ahead and,
Commissioner Bond?
I guess I've made the motion.
You made the motion, there's a
I
second.
guess I'll second it.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
okay.
Next on the agenda is emissions testing center lease.
Okay. I don't know, I was looking in my little folder that says leases, And I have discovered that down in Smyrna, where we have, it was EnviroTest that had the contract with the county, with the state. And we've been letting them use that property on Weekly Lane for a long time. That lease expired, I think it's been expired a year. It terminated on June the 30th, 2016, folks, so I just discovered that, to be honest with you. So, and since this, EnviroTest is not even the people that are providing the test, and the state has now engaged a company called Opus, O-P-U-S, Opus Inspection. So, and their contract with the state of Tennessee expires, I think, I may have written this down wrong, June the 30th of 2019. So they've only got a little bit more time left on their contract. So what I'm suggesting that we do, is use this same lease. It's, they don't pay us anything but $1 a year or whatever it is. And
$1 per month.
is it $1 per month? You'd have-
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we've even received that, but anyway, that's just the way this thing is structured. Make the lease begin on July the 1st of 2000 and whatever,
16?
yes, 17, July the 1st of 2016, because I want to make it retro so they'll be covered if anything ever comes up, through June the 30th of 2019.
Okay, you saying 3 years?
Is that 3 years?
Okay, This
Yeah.
shows this terminated on June 30, 2016, so make it retroactive.
To the July the 1st of 2016. And their contract now is going to expire with the state, so I'm going to make a concurrent determination with when their contract is up with the state. It might be renewed, but we can renew the lease then, but don't send it any further than that until they see they continue as the provider of that service for the state of Tennessee.
Okay, basically, the only thing to be changed would be the name of the company from EnviroTest to
And the dates, that's all.
Opus or,
That's right. Opus Inspecting.
okay. Well, the nice thing about it here on 3 says that they will hold the county, it's a hold harmless agreement that we're not liable for anything or any problems on it. So for $10 a year, couldn't afford to be held liable from us,
That's right.
So basically, just like the old saying, the names would be changed to protect the innocent then, right?
That's correct.
Can you need that in the form of a motion? Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Even though it's $1 a month, call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes. Okay, judicial building update.
Well, I put on your iPad the monthly progress report for October the 5th, 2017, so I don't think there's much here that you hadn't already heard before. Of course, the parking garage is complete. We paid out all the money because we're still holding some retainage, and the judicial building itself is almost 80% complete as far as the money we paid out, and everything inside is pretty much what is happening now. They're finishing out, and casework and millwork is all going in place, so it's a lot happening now. Once a month on a Wednesday, there's a tour available. If you want to go over there and see this, it's really beginning. You can tell what's happening. They just had, let's see, they just had one recently, but the next one is, I think, on Wednesday, November the 8th at 10:30. So you can really tell what's going to be in these spaces now. You can see a few of these pictures that were attached that were there, and you can see even the bathrooms, et cetera, taking shape. And there are some pictures that show them cabinet work and what have you on the walls, and so and we don't have any, right now we don't know of any particular reason there's any reason to be concerned that we got a problem. I mean, the trailers, the construction trailers they had on site, which were there adjacent to our old health department building, are gone. They've moved those. Their offices are in the side entrance over there off of Church Street in the building. So the construction offices have been moved inside. And much of the elevator work is probably by the next time. I think probably some of them they're working, so you probably won't have to climb stairs too much. That's all I wanted to tell you on that, unless you got some more questions.
Any questions on the judicial building update? Okay, Leanna Recycling Center.
Okay, now Mr. Nolan is conveniently unavailable tonight, so here I am. Anyway, you've heard this discussion, I'm sure, how tiny, and I put in your, on your SharePoint there, the site plan and a picture of what we've got there, Leanna Recycling Center. And you can see we've got one compactor and 3 open top boxes there. And it's very, very limited. We have not very much in the way of recycling, and it's tiny, tiny, tiny. And there's always been a traffic problem there. But when we had to put in our remedial improvements because we had an accident at one of the other centers, and I allowed but one car at a time to come in there to that packer box, we've had a lot of problems with our people lined up to come in there, out there in the middle of that very, very busy highway. So last weekend, we changed the entrance around there to where the entrance comes across that parking lot that's in front of that building, so that we could get these people off that road out there, which we've done that, but we still, it's time for us to make some major improvements there on that property. There's about 4 acres there. It's county property. There has been some very, very limited use of one of those ball fields, but we think it's time for us to sort of move forward and develop a plan. And the plan, one major part of that plan is that building there is not being used for anything. It's ours, and it became a little bit dilapidated and not appropriate to even have a voting precinct there. So it's not a historical building, and it's just a block building, okay? So we'd like for you to give us at least permission. We don't have a plan yet. We'd like to give us some authority to use this piece of property here, and in particular, give permission, I think this must be a part of the plan, take that building down and draw and lay out a site that would be more appropriately up to date. This one is far behind. Maybe even, this may be the least available space for any of our recycling centers. And we'll bring back to you a more detailed plan, but we need some permission at least to start the thought process centered around removing that building, and probably there's 2 ball fields there. We're not sure that they're not using, but one of them maybe, and we may just at some point, if there's not going to be, and no actual league is using this, it's just, I think, a sort of an ad hoc kind of group that's using this occasionally, that we may just have to interfere with both of those, but we haven't officially determined that and haven't talked to them. In fact, we don't know who to talk to, quite truthfully. So that's where we are, and we have I think he's still back there with us, one of our commissioners that's been heavily involved in taking comments from the public over years about this, so he can probably add some things there to the importance of this that I haven't said.
Would you like to?
I would just appreciate the support on this. When I was first elected to commissioner in 2002, this is on my list of things from the community to handle, and we've looked over the years for moving it somewhere more appropriate. Decided it wasn't even worried. Nobody wants to live next door to one of these, and ball fields aren't being used. One of them's grown up in weeds over my head. The other one, every now and then people stop and pitch a ball a little bit. And hopefully we can salvage one field out of this, but we would appreciate the commission to look forward into this because it's long overdue. And I'm running out of time on the commission. I'd like to get it done. Get it done before I retire.
Okay, thank
Appreciate your
you.
consideration.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to give permission to proceed with developing a plan.
Got a motion, we have a second? Got a second, any more discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good. Okay, Rockville Recycling Center.
Okay. All I'm going to do tonight is just report to you some research and some work that's been done by our county attorney. And I don't know if you've had time to read those few pages that's on your iPads there or not, but we've asked, I asked the mayor to, not the mayor, I asked the county attorney to follow up on your concerns and some that were mentioned previously, and he's addressed 3 things that were identified as potentially going to require some sort of approval from someone else if we actually move forward with that site out there at Rockvale. Tennessee Code annotated 4-11-111 states in part, you can read this as good as I can, but I'll try to abbreviate it. All state agencies and institutions of higher education and other state entities that have control of state property shall consult the commission prior to demolishing, altering, or transferring any property that is or may be of historical significance. Now, they're talking about the Tennessee Historical Commission, okay? That's, you can see that in the next page there. All right, and I'll just read the last sentence, and if anybody has some questions about those other 2 paragraphs up there, they can. But there's already been some Attorney General's determination. For example, they already determined that there were 3 properties in question: the Belmead Mansion, the Craig Font, and the Hermitage and the Sam Davis home. There were questions put that, about whether they should be controlled by this Tennessee Historical Commission, and the Attorney General's office determined that whether the specific historic properties in question are subject to the authority and control of the commission depends primarily upon whether the property in question is owned by the state of Tennessee or by some other entity. And the Attorney General's office concluded that the Belmead Mansion, the Hermitage, and the Sam Davis home could not be managed by the commission because they were not historical properties owned by the state. Now, Craig Font remained within the ownership of the state. It was just the state had contracted with Sumner County Association of the Preservation of Tennessee Antiquities to manage that property. Applying all of these statutes, I'm just reading the county attorney's findings. Applying all these statutes and the Attorney General's analysis to the question raised with respect to the Rockville property, one must determine who owns the property. Unless the state of Tennessee actually owns the property in question, then these statutory sections do not apply. Section 2 is the Tennessee Heritage Protection Act, and may in certain circumstances apply to a county. To that end, this statute defines public properties, including property owned by a county. However, the statute is ultimately geared toward preserving and/or controlling the removal, renaming, relocation, altering, rededication, or disturbance of a memorial. More so going on, while it is public real property owned by the county, it is our understanding that it has not been named or dedicated in honor of any historic conflict, entity, event, figure, or organization. Thus, it does not appear to fall within protection of the Tennessee Heritage Protection Act. Federal grants. You asked whether any federal grant may be implicated by the Rockville property, and specifically directed them to investigate 16 U.S.C. 470F. Based on our research of this U.S. Code provision, it appears to have been repealed on December the 19th, 2014, and is no longer good law. So, and it talks a little bit more about grants. While it does not appear there are grant monies available for some refurnishing or remodeling, there are grant monies available for some refurnishing or remodeling. It is under our understanding that has not occurred here yet. and we're not getting any grant money, federal grant money to actually, we don't have a grant yet, but if we did get one, it wouldn't have any federal money. It would be from the state only. It does not appear that altering or changing the property would matter in this particular case. So all three of those, the findings are negative, and that there's any further approval or review that we need to make with respect to those three statutes. So that's the only thing we need to do there is read that into the record. And I want to make one other point. Even before we started a site plan, you might say, when we were even thinking about it, all the way back in March the 20th of 2015, we had an independent environmental group, company, they did a hydrologic determination was what they actually did, and went through and I think did we post that on there?
Yes.
Okay, so you got that. You got those findings, and there's a few pages of that too as well. So let me see where. There was, I should have reviewed this again right before I came up here, shouldn't have, to find which paragraph we need to get into.
Well, they do have a summary.
Okay, got the results, or the summary. Well, we just go there. It is Triad's findings that the water course running across the northwest corner of the site flows only in direct response to precipitation and is therefore a wet weather conveyance. It is important for these findings to be verified by TDEC before the determination can be considered official. Please also be aware that physical alterations to wet weather conveyances are permitted under the TDEC general permit for alterations to wet weather conveyances. Written application or authorization is not required under this general permit. However, terms and conditions do apply. All that to say is it appears that that little, what they're calling there, a water course, is only in response to precipitation. It can be modified or it can be whatever, but you do have to follow certain terms and conditions that are under TDEC's control. So at this point, we don't think there's any major issue that would prevent us from using that site for its intended purpose. So I'm not really asking you to do anything except, I guess, just without objection, we're going to continue our due diligence, our homework, and develop that site plan in conformance with local, state, both building codes, zoning, and any other environmental issues that may come forward will be addressed as we finalize the actual site plan.
But you would like all this information put in our records?
Yes, we got this right here.
According to the summary here, basically, you can go ahead and do whatever you want to, you don't have to apply to it, because the permit's not even required.
It's only environmental. It says it's not a written permit, but
Written application or authorization is
they've got
not
some rules and
required.
things that say guidelines that we probably have to adhere to. I haven't looked at them, I don't know, but that's what the engineer said.
You just have to comply with the terms and conditions of it, but you don't have to apply for a permit.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
So at this point, we've not been able to discover anything else that requires approval. Not like I say, we've still got our own codes department, our own zoning people, and whoever else is out there that needs to be addressed, we're going to do that. Including further discussion with TDEC.
Okay. Any questions on it? If not, I don't see why you can't continue on and just bring the information back to the committee, put it in the records, and proceed on with the project.
Okay.
Committee,
Mr. Williams?
yeah, I see why.
Yeah.
Do we want to suspend the rule and allow him to speak?
I think we should.
That was a motion. Second?
Motion to,
Got a second on it?
I'll second.
You got a second. All in favor say aye.
aye.
Mr. Williams?
Brief,
30 seconds. My question is, should this go to the Public Works Committee before it moves forward? In 2013, when this same situation came up with Las Gases, it all went through Public Works. You guys have, by rule, have a certain element that you need to do, but so does Public Works. So I don't know if it's a question of what. If there is a question, then I would ask that the steering committee, as it's supposed to by the rules, would decide if they have to, if it doesn't automatically go there. So I just want to make it on the record that this needs to go through the Public Works for all of the design and everything, just like the last Casas one did in 13.
So we have to get a ruling for the attorney on that, shouldn't we, Mr. Mayor?
We plan on taking it to Public Works anyway.
It's got to go through them. We can only go.
That was all I wanted, just to make sure we hadn't
Yeah.
talked about that.
We can only, the last cast went through,
Wait, they-
because we can only go so
It'll go on
far.
to Public Works anyway.
Yeah, it's already been there all the way back to the budget period 2000. So we'll take it back again. It was there in 2015, 16, it was put in the budget, approved and recommended by the Public Works Committee back even then. And we've taken it out since then, since we've had all this discussion ongoing.
So this is a moot point.
More or less, because
Because it's here.
we plan on doing that.
Anybody else from the audience? Since we suspend the rule? No? Okay. Any other business to come before the committee tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We'll continue.